A long time ago, a being who had transcended mortality, who had climbed beyond the concept of gods and reached the realm of Hadu gods, waged war against an unknown enemy. He was not just powerful, he was the embodiment of cruelty, a force beyond the comprehension of even the most enlightened entities across the multiverse. He fell, cast down from his throne beyond existence itself. His name, once spoken with reverence or fear, was erased, sealed away along with the very essence of his true power. He should have ceased to be forgotten by time and space itself, but his will refused to be extinguished. Even though his original strength remained bound, one power still resonated within him, the power of the Shadow Monarch, the gift he had once received from Ashbourne. A power of absolute dominion over death and shadows remained intact. This power had allowed him to conquer his homeworld, save it from destruction, and bring peace after the war against the monarchs. With his world safe, he had thought his journey was over. When he opened his eyes once more, he found himself in the world of eternal slumber. It was his domain, the infinite void where his army of the dead slumbered, waiting for his call. Yet something was different. The multiversal pathways that should have stretched endlessly across realities were now sealed. Only one universe remained accessible to him, the Star Wars universe. Jin-Woo was aware of how the story played out from beginning to end. The rise and fall of empires, the endless cycle of war between Jedi and Sith, the fate of the Republic, the deception of the Sith Lords, the fragile hope of the rebellion, and the coming storm of conflicts beyond what most could comprehend. It's been eons, but regaining my true power is still difficult. Yet I have only clawed back a fraction of what was lost. His presence stirred the shadows. Thousands, no millions of figures knelt before him within the endless darkness, their forms shrouded in the abyss. His army had not faded. They still awaited his orders. Jin-Woo, the being who once held a name greater than any god, stood, his purple eyes glowing faintly in the void. The universe before him was vast, filled with war, strife, and corruption. The Jedi, the Sith, the Republic, the Empire, none of them mattered to him. But now, in this galaxy far, far away, his reawakening had begun. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo moved. A single step in the void was all it took, and his body vanished from the world's repose. When he reappeared, he stood atop a desolate asteroid, a lifeless rock floating in the endless abyss of space. The frigid cold, the vacuum devoid of oxygen, none of it mattered to him. His black coat barely moved in the stillness as he observed his surroundings in silence. His purple eyes narrowed as he gazed toward a nearby mining facility embedded into the asteroid's surface. If this place is what I think it is, then this is probably where Vectivus died. Not that I have money anyway. Darth Vectivus, a Sith Lord, known not for destruction, but for his wealth and influence, a master of dark side techniques that did not require war to enforce power. A mere footnote in history, the location itself held significance. A force, not the force, but something more fundamental pushed back against him. It was subtle at first, like a faint resistance against his movements, but with each step it intensified. It was not a natural phenomenon. It was something designed to reject him. The galaxy itself was resisting his existence. Jin-Woo narrowed his eyes. So that's how it is. The laws of this universe don't accept me. It's trying to push me back. He didn't panic. He had experienced something similar before, when he crossed into worlds where existence itself fought against foreign entities. The solution was simple. Jin-Woo lifted his hand, forming a seal of suppression, and without hesitation, he locked away 50% of his power. In exchange, he forced his essence to anchor itself to this reality. The invisible resistance faded immediately, the pressure vanishing as if it had never been there. A sudden shift in the shadows behind him caused him to glance back. A dark shadow towering figure emerged from his shadow, a monstrous humanoid with an insectoid exoskeleton, sharp claws and piercing eyes. His mandibles clicked as he lowered his head in reverence. "My liege," Baru knelt, his voice filled with concern. What has happened? Jin-Woo exhaled lightly. Nothing. Return to the shadows. Barua hesitated for a fraction of a second, but obeyed, bowing deeply before sinking back into the darkness beneath Jin-Woo's feet. Without wasting another moment, Jin-Woo moved toward the abandoned asteroid mining facility. The metal structures embedded into the rock had long since rusted, the atmosphere filled with a cold stillness that not even time could erode. His steps were soundless as he entered, walking through the ruined corridors of a place long forgotten. Then they appeared, force phantoms. Countless spectral figures of the dead surrounded him, lingering like echoes of the past. Their hollowed-out forms flickered with traces of the dark side, remnants of those who had perished here long ago. Yet despite their overwhelming presence, they did not attack. More than that, they did not dare to move. Jin-Woo stopped, his blue eyes glancing at the specters without the slightest reaction. They trembled, shifting restlessly, but none of them advanced. Note, why blue eyes? Because he is weakened by 50%. Then one figure began to take shape, solidifying before him. A tall, shadowed figure in Sith robes, his presence still carrying an air of intelligence rather than raw malice. The ghost of Darth Vectivus, the so-called Sith Lord of Business and Wealth. Vectivus studied him with mild curiosity before speaking. I have lived for a long time, the Sith Lord mused. But this isn't the first time I've seen the dead too afraid to attack someone. That means one of two things. He lifted a ghostly hand, counting on his fingers. 1. You are an incredibly powerful Sith Lord, or perhaps an exceptionally strong Jedi Master. He paused, narrowing his hollow, ghostly eyes at Jin-Woo. The second possibility? I have no idea what you are. So tell me, are you the first or the second? Jin-Woo remained completely silent. His stare was blank, unreadable, as if Vectivus was nothing more than a piece of scenery. The Sith Lord's eyebrow twitched. This is awkward. Aren't you at least going to act surprised? Maybe jump back in shock or, I don't know, gasp dramatically? Jin-Woo said nothing. Vectivus sighed, crossing his arms. Fine, be like that. He waved a hand dismissively. Just pretend I'm not here. Take whatever credits you want and get out. Jin-Woo was about to say something when Vectivus suddenly cut him off. Yeah, my secret stash. My legendary knowledge about Force Phantoms. All my Sith Lord wisdom blah blah blah, I get it. You're here for that, Vectivus muttered, waving his ghostly hand like he was brushing off an annoying salesman. Jin-Woo's blue eyes twitched slightly. Oi, hear what I'm saying? Vectus froze mid-gesture, blinking. Then a slow grin spread across his ghostly face. It was only now that he finally looked down. His smirk faltered slightly as he saw what lay beneath Jin-Woo's feet. The shadows shifted. A swirling abyss of pure darkness pulsed unnaturally, stretching beyond human comprehension. It was not just darkness, it was something far worse. A realm of the dead that obeyed only one master. Vectivus's grin flickered as he instinctively took a step back. Fine, let's hear it. Jin-Woo exhaled slightly. Teach me your Force abilities. The Sith Lord stared. Then he laughed, an exasperated, almost incredulous laugh. Are you kidding me? You, Vectivus motioned vaguely at him, then at the swirling mass of darkness beneath Jin-Woo, where millions of shadows waited, silent and loyal. You literally carry an entire army of the dead beneath you. And you want my Force abilities? Vectivus scoffed, rubbing his temples. Do you even realize how ridiculous that sounds? My Force Phantoms are basically glorified spooky Sith ghosts. He gestured at the silent spirits around them. You have actual physical undead warriors. Do you know how much effort it takes to manifest a Force Phantom? And you want to learn my techniques when you can just raise an army by standing still? Jin-Woo's blue eyes remained unblinking. Teach me your Force abilities. How to use them your way, not like other Sith. Vectivus let out a sharp, amused exhale. Someone who's better at controlling the dead than me asking for my expertise. He smirked. That's a very stupid situation, but I'm intrigued. The ghostly Sith Lord folded his arms, his gaze turning skeptical. Use the Force in my way? You mean the boring way of living? Because I hope you realize the great legend of Darth Vectivus is that I was just a Sith Lord who also happened to be a businessman. He raised an eyebrow. You still won the boring way? Not like any of the others. Not like Bane. Not like the ones who destroyed and rebuilt the Sith over and over again. Jin-Woo didn't hesitate. Of all the Sith, you're the only one who broke the cyst. Vectivus narrowed his hollow ghostly eyes. Jin-Woo continued, his voice calm, indifferent but absolute. You're the only Sith who died in the loving arms of your family and friends. His blue eyes locked onto the Sith Lord. As far as I know, for the first time, Vectivus went silent. He regarded Jin-Woo with new eyes, the usual arrogance fading slightly. First off, he exhaled, rubbing his temples again. What are you? I could tell you don't use the Force, but you probably could fight a high-end Sith Lord if you wanted. And I've never heard of anything like you. Not once in my entire life. Jin-Woo's voice remained flat. I'm not from here. Vectivus tilted his head and confused. I mean, Jin-Woo clarified, not from this galaxy. The Sith Lord froze. For a moment, the room felt even colder than the void outside. Ha! Vectivus blinked, his spectral form flickering slightly. His voice carried genuine disbelief. What? Jin-Woo, as always, remained unfazed. He spoke, his voice calm and direct. He come from a world where two opposing forces, the rulers and the monarchs, waged an endless war. Each side had enough power to destroy entire planets in a single blow, and their battles shaped the fate of existence itself. The rulers sought to bring order, while the monarchs existed to bring absolute destruction. For eons they clashed, wiping out entire civilizations in the process. And he was one of them. Vectivus stared at him, completely still. Then he exhaled sharply and ran a ghostly hand down his face. That's crazy. That's insane. And I say that as a Sith. He pointed at Jin-Woo. So let me guess. Judging by your power, you were the monarch of the dead. Jin-Woo neither confirmed nor denied it, but his silence was answer enough. Vectis huffed. Well, damn. Not gonna lie, that explains a lot. But I'm not an idiot, so I'm asking you again. Be honest. His ghostly eyes narrowed. First, why do you need to learn from me? Jin-Woo didn't hesitate. I have a problem anchoring myself to this galaxy. Vectivus nodded slowly. Huh? That actually makes sense. And the second. His voice sharpened. Can you banish the undead from the living world? Jin-Woo's expression remained unreadable. I can banish the dead completely, erase them from the living. Vectivus suddenly looked much more interested. Now that, he said, rubbing his chin, is something worth talking about. He crossed his arms, pacing slightly before looking back at Jin-Woo. Fine, I'll teach you. Jin-Woo gave him a small nod. I assume you want something in return. Vectivus smirked. Of course. I wouldn't be a Sith if I didn't. Jin-Woo's blue eyes locked onto him. Revenge against your apprentice? Vectivus let out a sharp laugh. Ha, no. All you Sith think the same way, huh? He grinned. I'll have, my apprentice waited for me to die in bed and did nothing, which I respect. Jin-Woo blinked. That was unexpected. Vectivus chuckled, shaking his head. Unlike most Sith, he didn't betray me, didn't stab me in the back, didn't try to claim my power, he just let me die. Honestly, that's probably the most Sith thing anyone has ever done. Jin-Woo remained silent, waiting. Vectis's grin faded slightly. His voice turned more solemn. What I want is simple. He gestured to himself, to his ghostly form trapped in the remnants of his old lair. Banish me. Let me join with the Force. Jin-Woo tilted his head slightly. Don't tell me the dark side of the Force is fickle and refuses to let you go, just because you use ghosts to pickaxe rocks. Vectivus snorted. One of the reasons. He folded his arms. But mostly it's because my apprentice forgot to destroy my holocron. He sighed, rubbing his forehead like an exhausted businessman. Whether he admired my way or hated it, I don't know. But what's done is done. He smirked slightly, his eyes gleaming with amusement. Now I'm going to teach you the boring way of the Sith, and how to get rich while doing it. Jin-Woo said nothing, simply nodding as he listened. For hours he sat in silence, absorbing everything Vectuus taught him. Unlike the other Sith Lords who twisted the dark side into an instrument of rage, passion, and destruction, Vectivus explained that the key to bypassing the dark side's restrictions was far simpler. "Forget blind anger," Vectivus said, pacing in front of Jin-Woo. "The real secret to power is ambition and proving superiority. That's it. You don't need to be a mindless berserker like Darth Bane or some unstable lunatic obsessed with betrayal. The dark side rewards control, strategy, and execution. It's about taking what you want without being some raging idiot." Jin-Woo absorbed every word. Finally, Vectivus clapped his hands together. "All right, enough of the philosophy. Time for something practical." He raised a ghostly hand. "We'll start with telekinesis." The moment he said it, the walls around them shuddered. The abandoned asteroid base groaned under an unseen force as debris floated into the air. "Telekinesis is the foundation of everything," Vectuas continued. "It includes simple techniques like force push and force barrier. Without it, you're just a guy waving his hands around looking stupid." He gestured toward a pile of rusted mining equipment. "Your turn. Move it." Jin-Woo closed his eyes for a moment, then reached out. The air shifted. The dark energy around him flexed, and in an instant the debris lifted off the ground. He focused, and with a mere thought, he sent it crashing against the wall with a violent thud. Vectivus raised an eyebrow. "Huh." Jin-Woo exhaled slightly, lowering his hand. Vectivus chuckled. "You're pretty fast for an alien in our galaxy." Jin-Woo's blue eyes met his. "I'm very teachable." Vectivus let out a satisfied sigh and clapped his ghostly hands together. No point wasting time. With that, he went all in, dumping centuries of Sith knowledge into Jin-Woo's mind at an absurd pace. Telekinesis, force lightning, force phantoms, and the elusive technique of creating a force ghost. Vectivus left nothing out. He didn't teach like a traditional Sith Lord. No dramatic monologues about the dark side's philosophy, just raw knowledge, tested and refined. Jin-Woo, with his unnatural ability to adapt, absorbed it all like a machine. After hours of relentless training, Vectivus finally took a step back, looking at Jin-Woo with something between exhaustion and amusement. All right. Vectivus waved his hands as if signaling a break. "Show me your results, but before that, what's your name?" Jin-Woo stood still for a moment before answering. "Song Jin-Woo." Vectuus smirked. "Right, Song Jin-Woo. Now show me your dark side of the Force in a form that every Sith can recognize." Jin-Woo lifted his hand. The air around him crackled. The abandoned mining base shuddered as an unnatural energy surged through it. Then lightning erupted from his fingertips. But it was not blue. It was black. The dark lightning arced through the air, twisting like a living entity, tendrils of abyssal energy flickering with unnatural motion as they struck against the cold, lifeless walls. The entire structure groaned under the pressure, the sheer force of the attack distorting the very atmosphere around them. Vectivus' ghostly eyes widened. "Wait, why isn't it blue?" His expression shifted from intrigue to pure confusion. "Why the hell is your lightning black?" Jin-Woo remained silent. Vectivus stared for a few seconds, then sighed, shaking his head. "Not my problem anyway." With a flick of his ghostly hand, he used telekinesis to move two objects toward Jin-Woo lightsaber and a thick stack of credit cards. The lightsaber was old, elegant, yet simple in design, clearly a relic from Vectuva's era. "Now you are officially my second apprentice," Vectivus smirked. "That's my lightsaber. I hope it serves you well." Jin-Woo caught it effortlessly, his blue eyes scanning the weapon. "It's empty," he said flatly. "The kyber crystal isn't there." Vectuas blinked. Then his face twisted in irritation as he snatched the hilt back and inspected it. "That little bastard really did hate me," he groaned, shaking his head. "At least let me know you hate me, you thieving bastard." He huffed before tossing the empty lightsaber back to Jin-Woo. "Guess you'll have to get your own crystal. Consider it a Sith tradition." Jin-Woo caught it again without reaction. Vectivus exhaled, rubbing his temples. Anyway, if you're serious about this whole getting rich while mastering the dark side thing, then you should know a lot of my treasures are still scattered across the galaxy. In one of my safes, there's a map that'll lead you to them, if you ever need it. Jin-Woo tilted his head slightly. You sure you want to leave the living world? Since you're a Sith, I don't know where you'll end up. Jedi join the Force when they die. Sith, they just vanish. Vectivus chuckled. Yeah, well, better than being stuck here for another century. He gave a smirk, then sighed, looking up as if sensing time itself. Besides, I already calculated it's 13,956 GRS. He let out a small laugh. It's been way too long. Jin-Woo's blue eyes flickered with thought. 12 years before the Phantom Menace. I still have time to prepare. Vectivus turned back to him with a smirk. Now, my reward set me free from this prison. Jin-Woo lifted a hand. Canceled the dead. The moment the words left his mouth, Vectivus's form began to dissolve. Like sand being swept away by the wind, the Sith Lord's essence faded, unraveling into nothing. Vectivus let out a satisfied sigh, his voice echoing as he vanished. Get rich, Jin-Woo. I don't want my apprentice to be poor. And with that, Darth Vectivus disappeared forever. Jin-Woo stood alone in the abandoned mining facility, the eerie silence of the asteroid surrounding him. The shadows flickered at his feet, restless, as if sensing a shift in reality itself. Then it happened. A faint humming sound, mechanical yet almost imperceptible, resonated in the air. A notification screen materialized before his eyes, glowing softly with an unnatural presence. Notification. Star Wars player system has been activated. Jin-Woo's blue eyes sharpened. He had expected something. This galaxy had been rejecting him the moment he entered it, and to counter that, he had sealed half of his power. But now, his guess had been proven correct. This universe had adjusted to his presence, forming a system that attempted to categorize him. His smirk deepened. In every world, in every system, leveling is the simplest way to regain power. If I use my sealed 50% as a foundation and modify the Force to suit my needs, then this is extremely beneficial to me. The notification expanded, showing detailed information about his current status. Status. Name Sung Jin-Woo. Age unknown. Level 15 low-level Jedi Knight / low-level Sith Warrior. EXP still counting. Occupation unknown. Midichlorian count 25,000. Money. E-By-One credits. Force abilities. Force Ghost, Force Phantom, Force Jump, Force Pull, Push Midichlorian Manipulation. Locked. Midichlorian count not sufficient. Force Lightning, Force Throw, Force Telekinesis, Mind Control, Manipulation, Force Choke. Skills and abilities. Master Swordsmanship, Expert Marksmanship, Basic Telekinetic, Lightsaber Combat. Note, imperfect system detected. Additional anchor required to integrate into this galaxy's system properly. Jin-Woo's smirk didn't fade. The system wants to use me? His blue eyes gleamed coldly. Then I'll make it mine. Suddenly, the notification screen flickered violently, the glowing text glitching and distorting as if struggling to process his existence. Notification. Error, unable to detect original power. Notification. Error, unable to recognize Shadow Monarch abilities. Notification. System failure, critical data missing. Jin-Woo remained still, watching the system struggle. I see, the system is too weak to handle my full existence. It had tried to categorize him as a force. User tried to fit him into the galaxy's rules, but his original power was beyond its comprehension, the Shadow Monarch's authority. And his sealed divinity didn't register within this framework. Jin-Woo exhaled lightly. Looks like I need a bigger anchor to perfect the system. This will take a lot of my time. Suddenly, the screen flickered again. A new notification popped up, its text glowing more aggressively than before. Notification, sudden quest. Quest title, Reawaken the Anchor. Description, collect as much money or expensive items as needed to Establish your dominance in the galaxy. Current. Progress. 100,000,000 Credits. Reward. Another piece of the anchor to stabilize the system. Defeat condition. Banishment from the galaxy. Time limit 48 hours. Hidden objectives unknown. Hidden rewards unknown. Jin-Woo read the notification, then let out a short sigh. I miss the architect. At least he wasn't this pushy. Meanwhile, at the Jedi Temple, deep within the heart of Coruscant, beneath the towering spires of the Jedi Temple, two figures moved through the shadows, unseen, undetected. Sheev Palpatine, still a senator of Naboo, and his secret Sith apprentice, Darth Maul, had once again infiltrated the sacred halls of their ancient enemies. The two stood near the public areas of the temple, blending into the crowds of dignitaries, pilgrims, and visitors that often walked these halls. The temple's radiant glow, bathed in the faint shimmer of the light side, should have repelled them, but the Sith shrine, buried deep beneath this very structure, masked their presence, a forgotten relic of the past. The Sith shrine was a wound in the Force, a dark taint that even the Jedi had failed to fully cleanse. It provided Palpatine and Maul with temporary cover, allowing them to walk unnoticed within the Jedi's own stronghold. Maul, always impatient, spoke first. Master, this is the second time we've come here. His yellow eyes burned beneath his hood. Is it not time to reveal ourselves to the galaxy? Palpatine, ever the master manipulator, chuckled softly. Not yet, my apprentice. His voice was calm, yet filled with calculated malice. I have brought you here again to remind you of something. Maul frowned slightly but remained silent. Palpatine gestured subtly, his gaze sweeping over the Jedi moving about the temple masters. Knights, Padawans, all walking with the certainty that they were the galaxy's guardians. Look at them, Maul. The Sith Lord's tone was almost mocking. Their arrogance has made them forget what true power looks like. They believe their enemies are gone, that the Sith are nothing but an ancient relic. But while they bask in their ignorance, we grow stronger. Maul clenched his fists but nodded in understanding. Then Palpatine suddenly froze. Something was wrong. His eyes narrowed as he felt it, a disturbance in the dark side. Not just any disturbance. A presence. One that should not exist. Palpatine's focus sharpened, his senses expanding across the temple. It was faint, yet unmistakable. A dark side user, standing within the public areas of the Jedi Temple. Someone other than him. His eyes flicked toward the source, a lone figure standing among the crowds. A man in ragged, shrouded robes. His clothing was torn and worn, yet his posture held an undeniable presence. His face was hidden beneath a featureless, expressionless mask, his entire form wrapped in mystery. Palpatine's mind raced. A Sith? No. I would have known. Then who? His first instinct was to investigate immediately. But then his gaze flicked to Maul. The Zabrak was too hot-headed. If he sensed this presence, his first instinct would be to attack. And Palpatine could not allow that, not yet. I need to dismiss Maul for a while. The Sith Lord turned to his apprentice, his expression neutral. My apprentice, return to the ship and await my arrival. I have business to attend to. Maul frowned. Master, if there is something. Palpatine cut him off with a single glance, his tone final. Go. Maul hesitated for only a moment before nodding. As you command, Master. With that, he turned and departed out of the temple. Palpatine exhaled slowly, his gaze returning to the masked figure. There he stood, moving, unreadable. The ragged robes draped over his form gave him the look of a wanderer, a forgotten soul lost in the galaxy. His mask, featureless and expressionless, only deepened the mystery. Palpatine took a step closer, his voice smooth and controlled. What a nice day to visit the Jedi Temple. The masked figure remained silent. Palpatine observed him carefully, his Sith instinct sensing something unnatural. There was no Force signature coming from him, at least. Not in the way it should have been. It was as if the Force itself was either being suppressed or twisted. The Sith Lord smirked beneath his hood. Judging by your appearance, It seems you are unfamiliar with the supernatural power many in this galaxy speak of. Still, no response. Palpatine tilted his head slightly, intrigued. He had encountered many Force-sensitive beings before, yet none who carried themselves so completely disconnected from the galaxy's rules. Then he decided to bait him. He folded his hands together, his voice adopting a tone of faux generosity. I can help you if you desire. My master once told me it's better to teach something rather than take it. The moment those words left his lips, a violent explosion erupted near the Jedi Temple entrance. Within seconds, multiple thermal detonators detonated across different sections of the temple grounds, sending shockwaves through the air. Jedi and temple guards shouted in alarm, their focus immediately shifting to the chaos. A nearby Jedi, clad in traditional robes, turned sharply, his voice ringing out, "We're under attack. Thermal detonators have exploded at multiple locations." Panic spread through the civilians and visitors, with temple security quickly rushing to contain the situation. Smoke filled the air, alarms blaring as the Jedi activated their lightsabers, readying for battle. Palpatine, however, did not move. Instead, he slowly turned his gaze back to the masked figure. The man had not moved, not even an inch. Palpatine's eyes narrowed. This isn't a coincidence. He observed the way the figure stood, completely unaffected by the explosions. There was no tension in his posture, no reaction in his body language. "What are you planning, unknown man?" Palpatine had no doubt this figure was involved. Suddenly, a firm yet composed voice echoed through the Jedi Temple halls. "No harm has been done to the knights or Padawans," said Count Dooku, who stood beside Master Yoda, though still a Jedi Master at this time. His sharp gaze carried a weight of authority as he surveyed the aftermath of the explosions. Master Yoda, standing beside him, stroked his chin thoughtfully before speaking in his usual cryptic manner. "Still, why bombed the temple they have?" "Wonder, I do." Mace Windu, his expression grim, turned to the gathered Jedi and temple guards. "Gather all visitors now. The culprit is likely one of them." Palpatine remained silent, his hood concealing his expression as he subtly observed the masked man beside him. Without resistance, both he and the mysterious figure were herded along with the other civilians, all now suspects in the attack. The Jedi moved swiftly, ensuring that no one escaped the secured perimeter. As the tension in the room thickened, Count Dooku took a step forward, his voice calm yet commanding. His piercing gaze swept across the group of gathered civilians. "I am not like Master Windu," Dooku said evenly. "If you surrender now and confess your sins, I will let you go." Before anyone could respond, a deep voice interrupted. "Dooku, you've gone soft," Mace Windu said as he approached, his arms crossed. "They need to be brought to justice. We live in a society. What happens if harm comes to the younglings?" Master Yoda, standing between them, tapped his cane against the temple floor. "Both of you already said enough. Now the man in the robe revealed your face. You will." Palpatine, with a slow, deliberate motion, reached for his hood and pulled it back, revealing his face. Mace Windu's tense expression loosened slightly as he recognized him. "What brings a senator of Naboo to our temple? If you told us before, we could have discussed things like usual." Palpatine gave a measured smile, his voice calm yet layered with hidden intent. "Sometimes people either rise above their station or humble themselves. I simply choose to stay humble." The gathered civilians, who had been murmuring among themselves, suddenly shifted in their reactions. Some looked at Palpatine with newfound admiration, nodding at his supposed humility. Palpatine, watching their expressions, internally smirked. "I can use this. I can gain both influence and an advantage here." Then, in a perfectly timed move, he turned toward the masked man beside him and pointed. "This man," Palpatine said, his tone shifting slightly to something more serious. "I overheard a faint conversation, a hidden transmission. He was given orders to bomb this temple." The room tensed. Several Jedi turned toward the masked figure, their hands instinctively moving toward their lightsabers. But before anyone could act, Palpatine raised a hand. Wait just a moment, he said smoothly. I believe he was threatened into doing this. Mace Windu, ever cautious, narrowed his eyes. Take off your mask. The masked man stood still. Windu's patience thinned. Without warning, he raised a hand and used the Force to telekinetically rip the mask away. The mask flew off, revealing the face of a common scammer, a man who had been known to pose as a Jedi to trick people. His expression was one of pure confusion. What am I doing here? The scammer stammered, his eyes darting around in panic. Why am I here? Palpatine's expression shifted subtly. The dark side presence was gone. He felt nothing from the man now, not even a trace. His eyes slightly narrowed. This isn't right. Several Jedi Knights stepped forward, scanning the scammer carefully. They checked him for any hidden weapons, transmission devices, or signs of outside influence. Yet they found nothing. One of the nearby Padawans, after checking his records, frowned and spoke up. He's just a scammer, the Padawan said, shaking his head. Not a terrorist. A murmur rippled through the Jedi present. Many of them turned their gazes toward Palpatine, their expressions unreadable. Some of the Jedi Masters regarded him with curious suspicion. From where, exactly, had he gotten this information? Palpatine, ever the master of deception, did not flinch. Before that, he said smoothly, his voice carrying a carefully measured tone of humility, I merely guessed it. Mace Windu, standing nearby, immediately cut in. Senator Palpatine, Windu said, his tone firm but formal. If this situation has caused you discomfort, we can deal with it. However, you are required to stay at the Jedi Temple in the next 3 days for questioning. Palpatine internally frowned but kept his face neutral. 3 days. It was unusual for a senator to be held in a Jedi temple for so long. Normally, such matters would be handled quickly and diplomatically. But he understood why they were doing this. The Jedi weren't stupid. They didn't entirely trust his involvement. Then, before anyone could say anything further, a Jedi Knight rushed in, bowing slightly before speaking. Master Yoda, the Knight called out. At the entrance stairs there's a large hole in the ground, but it's been sealed with rocks and rubble. Palpatine, meanwhile, felt something cold crawling up his spine. He realized it instantly. He had been duped. The real culprit, the one he had sensed, had never been in front of him. In his mind, the puzzle pieces fell into place. I was a pawn. While I was chasing shadows, the real enemy, they went to the Sith shrine beneath the temple. Palpatine clenched his fists beneath his robes, but outwardly he remained composed. This makes me look really stupid. Beneath the Jedi Temple, deep within the long-buried Sith shrine, Jin-Woo stood amid the darkness, a satisfied smile on his face. The mission had gone exactly as planned. He had used mind control on the scammer, insert, and very low amount of shadow on his feet, ensuring that Palpatine would be detained for some time. He turned his gaze toward the two figures kneeling before him, Beru and Igris, who already done their job to use Vecti Vistache to bomb the Jedi Temple. You've done well, Jin, Wu said calmly. Beru, his insectoid form, twitched slightly as he raised his head. My liege, why did we not kill that old man? His mandibles clicked in frustration. He is a threat to your strength. The dark side flows within him. He will be an enemy in the future. Jin-Woo chuckled lightly. He's a piece that I need. Beru remained still, listening as Jin-Woo continued. Besides, if I entered the shrine while Palpatine wasn't at the temple, the shrine might have perceived me as an intruder. I needed to make sure that wouldn't happen. Igris, his shadowy armored figure motionless beside Beru, finally spoke. My liege, may I ask something? Jin-Woo glanced at him. Speak. Igris's voice remained unwavering. Why do you require these relics? Compared to the power of the rulers and monarchs, these Sith artifacts hold little value. They are nothing before your might. Jin-Woo smirked. I'll answer that, but after I do, you will return to my shadow. Both Beru and Igris nodded. Jin-Woo crossed his arms. If I don't collect enough money, I think I'll be kicked out of this galaxy. Both shadows remained silent for a moment. Then, as if understanding the absurdity of their king's situation, they said nothing more, and sank back into his shadow. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo moved deeper into the shrine. The air was thick with an ancient presence, the weight of centuries of Sith rituals pressing down upon the space like a lingering curse. The deeper he walked, the more he felt it, a presence woven into the structure itself, just as he had guessed. Darth Plagueis and the Sith Lords before him had left behind techniques that bound the shrine to their will. Unlike ordinary darkside sites, this place did not react with raw aggression. It was tamed. The guardians of this place, Sphysisbone, force spirits and phantoms, stood watch, yet they did not attack. Their forms loomed in the darkness, shifting like silent sentinels. Jin-Woo immediately understood why. Due to Palpatine now being forced to remain at the Jedi Temple for 3 days, the shrine was using all its remaining power to camouflage his presence. It was working tirelessly, ensuring that the Sith Lord remained undetectable to the Jedi, which meant one thing. It's just like taking candy from a baby. Everything here, every relic, every artifact, every piece of Sith history belonged to Jin-Woo now. With a mere thought, the shadow surged forward, sweeping through the chamber like a living tide. Sith holocrons, ancient manuscripts, cursed relics, and stacks of credits from past Sith Lords' hidden vaults were pulled into the darkness. Jin-Woo moved without hesitation, letting his army clear out centuries' worth of accumulated Sith knowledge and wealth. Then, amid the plundered artifacts, his blue eyes settled on something different. A crystal. It pulsed with energy, but it was unlike the others. The Sith had hoarded kyber crystals to forge blood-red lightsabers, but this kyber crystal, was different. Jin-Woo picked it up, rolling it between his fingers as he examined it closely. A kyber crystal. Here, he murmured, feeling something strange about its resonance. The energy within it pulsed, but it wasn't just raw power. It felt responsive, as if recognizing its wielder. Then, suddenly, notification. Hidden quest completed. Jin-Woo's gaze sharpened as the system screen expanded before him. Hidden objectives. Find at least 1 kyber crystal shard. Hidden rewards. Kyber crystal bound to the first person who held it. Incomplete Starforge X1. Jin-Woo barely even registered the crystal anymore. His focus snapped to the second reward. His thoughts froze for a second. An incomplete Starforge. Just spawned? If it was even remotely functional, it would be a game-breaking advantage. The Starforge, an ancient Rakatan superfactory capable of mass-producing ships, weapons, and droids on an industrial scale, was one of the most terrifying relics of galactic history. Jin-Woo wasn't just lucky, this was absurd. He immediately opened his eyes wide, expecting something massive to appear in front of him. Nothing. Shrine remained as it was, silent and undisturbed. Then another message appeared. Notification. Awarded items are being held in inventory. Jin-Woo stood still. He was completely silent. For the first time in this galaxy, he felt a slight sense of panic. Wait, a Starforge in my inventory? Even an incomplete one was colossal, a structure the size of a battle station. How the hell did it fit into an inventory slot? He exhaled, rubbing his temples. This galaxy system is insane. Then, before he could process the absurdity of what had just happened, another notification appeared. Notification. Completed quest. Quest title. Reawaken the Anchor. Completed. Description. Collect as much money or expensive items as needed to establish your dominance in the galaxy. Current progress. 1,000 credits. Reward. Another piece of the anchor to stabilize the system. Defeat penalty. Banishment from the galaxy. Nulled. Time limit. 40 hours. Cleared early. Jin-Woo read the numbers, blinked, then narrowed his eyes. Did I just get rich? Because I completed a hidden objective. A quadrillion credits. It wasn't just a fortune, it was a planetary economy's worth of wealth. And before he could even react to that revelation. Notification. Status window updated. Status window 1/4 first anchor. Name. Sung Jin-Woo. Age unknown. Level 15 low-level Jedi Knight / low-level Sith Warrior. EXP. Ling Trui Wu Shuan. Occupation. Unknown. Midichlorian count. 25,000. Money. 1,100,100 credits updated. Items inventory. Incomplete Starforge X1. Force abilities. Force Ghost. Force Phantom. Force Jump. Force Pull. Push. Midichlorian manipulation locked. Midichlorian count not sufficient. Force Lightning. Force Throw. Force Telekinesis. Mind Control. Manipulation. Force Choke. Skills and abilities. Master Swordsmanship. Expert Marksmanship. Basic Telekinetic Lightsaber Combat. Jin-Woo stared at the numbers. His wealth had skyrocketed into absurdity. He exhaled slightly before muttering, "The incomplete Starforge alone is worth quadrillions." As he processed his newfound resources, one of his shadows emerged, a knight clad in black armor, kneeling before him. It was Igris. "My liege," Igris spoke, his deep, unwavering voice filled with solemnity. "There is something I must admit I was wrong. Among the artifacts we have taken, one of the holocrons may interest you." Jin-Woo glanced at him before casually extending his hand. The holocron floated into his grasp, its dark crimson glow pulsing faintly. As he inspected it, his smirk grew. This wasn't just any Sith knowledge. It was the ritual of immortality, the same technique that Darth Vitiate, the Sith Emperor, used to prolong his existence far beyond natural limits. Jin-Woo's eyes flickered with mild amusement. So this is what he used. But as he analyzed further, his smirk faded slightly. The ritual had a condition. It could only be unlocked on Nathema, the same planet where Vitiate had first conducted his horrific mass ritual, draining an entire world of life, reducing it to a barren, hellish wasteland. Jin-Woo closed the holocron with a small chuckle. An interesting find, but not for now. He shifted focus to a more pressing issue. His status window. Having a quadrillion credits was great, but looking at that many zeros every time he checked was too damn annoying. Without hesitation, he modified his listed wealth. "Money, Ibaiwen." "Much better," Jin-Woo muttered. Too many zeros were confusing. As he turned his attention back to the shrine, he noticed his shadows had already gathered all the loot in front of him. Holocrons, relics, credits. Rare metals, everything had been meticulously collected and delivered. Without delay, Jin-Woo extended his hand, allowing the dark mass of his shadow to consume the treasure, seamlessly transferring it into his inventory. He would inspect it later. Among the various artifacts, his blue eyes locked onto something specific. A black kyber crystal. Resting among the Sith relics, the crystal pulsed with an ominous energy. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo picked it up and inserted it into Vectivus' lightsaber hilt. As he worked, Baruch stepped forward and spoke. "My liege," Baruch's voice carried deep respect, but also curiosity. "Why not insert the kyber crystal instead?" Jin-Woo didn't look up as he secured the kyber crystal in place. Kyber crystal shards are too powerful. He closed the hilt, sealing the modifications. The whole gem can empower a Force user 1,000-fold. Very impressive. Jin-Woo stared at the blade for a moment before deactivating it. "Maybe," he said casually, "but a blade created through Shadow Monarch power is still better." Without another word, he retracted his entire shadow army back into his darkness, their towering forms sinking into the void beneath him. The Sith shrine, now stripped of its treasures, felt eerily silent. Jin-Woo lowered himself to the ground, crossing his legs as he sat in the heart of the shrine, closing his eyes. He began to meditate. As his consciousness expanded, he felt something stirring. The holocrons he had absorbed through his shadow inventory were being processed. Their knowledge, abilities, and techniques were filtering through his very being, merging with his understanding of the Force. Then, notification. Gained 2 Force abilities and 1 skill. Force Drain. Mechuderu. Skill acquired. Sith Alchemy. Jin-Woo's lips curled into a smirk. Force Drain, the ability to leech the life force and energy of others to replenish oneself. A technique once used by Sith Lords to sustain their power indefinitely. Mechuderu, a forbidden Sith ability. One that allowed the user to manipulate, corrupt, an enhanced technology at a molecular level. It was a technique that could turn machines into extensions of the user's will. And finally, Sith alchemy, the knowledge of twisting reality, forging unnatural creations, and enhancing weaponry and armor through the dark side. As he remained in meditation, his mastery of the Force deepened. The holocron's knowledge continued flowing into him, insights, forms, movements, all unraveling within his mind. In that moment, Jin-Woo learned all 7 forms of lightsaber combat. From Shisho to Juyo, his understanding of each form settled effortlessly into his consciousness, as if they had always been part of him. Then, as he remained seated in the depths of the Sith shrine, he became aware of time. He had been meditating for a full day, yet the rewards had been far greater than expected. A new notification appeared before him. Notification: gained 2 Force abilities. Naga Sato's ability, projective telepathy, battle meditation, transfer essence. Jin-Woo's eyes gleamed slightly. Projective telepathy and battle meditation. Like other battle meditation techniques, Naga Sato's version was different. Rather than simply boosting the morale and coordination of his allies, Sato's ability allowed him to influence the minds of Force sensitives, and even entire fleets, bringing them under his direct control. Sato had repeatedly showcased this Force technique on a large scale, influencing entire armadas with little strain on himself. Unlike the Jedi variant, which required immense concentration, his battle meditation was a weapon of domination. Transfer essence, a technique only the most powerful of Sith Lords could wield. A method of cheating death, allowing one spirit to leave a dying body and seize another as a vessel. With these, his arsenal of powers had expanded significantly. Yet, as Jin-Woo continued his meditation, he noticed something. Palpatine's presence. It was moving. As expected, the Sith Lord had begun maneuvering his way out of the Jedi Temple. His silver tongue and masterful manipulations had likely convinced the Jedi to release him sooner than planned. Jin-Woo slowly opened his blue eyes. He scanned the shrine around him. The Guardians, the Sith spawn, and spirits twitched, shifting in place. They could not recognize him as a true Sith, nor as an enemy. They merely waited. Jin-Woo smirked slightly. One day, when my anchor is perfected, I will invade this place myself. With that final thought, he let the darkness transport him. The world of eternal slumber opened and Jin-Woo vanished into it. At the entrance of the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda stood before the gathered Jedi Council members and Senator Palpatine, his small form radiating authority despite his stature. His eyes were calm but sharp, analyzing the situation even as he spoke. On behalf of the Jedi Council, apologize. I do, Senator Palpatine, for holding you back, Yoda said, his voice measured. Palpatine, ever the master of deception, feigned composed panic, carefully controlled balance between concern and patience. With a calm smile, he nodded slightly. I understand, Master Yoda, Palpatine said smoothly. I only hope the intruder is captured soon. As I mentioned before, I merely made a suggestion. Mace Windu, standing beside Yoda with arms crossed, was as unreadable as ever. His piercing gaze scanned Palpatine for any signs of deception. The Jedi Temple will be closed to the public until further notice, Windu stated firmly. Palpatine raised an eyebrow, feigning polite curiosity. For how long, Master Windu? Mace Windu's expression remained firm. It's uncertain, but what's clear is that the intruder did not steal anything. He glanced toward the temple's massive entrance. This unknown figure had another motive. Palpatine's mind froze for a split second. If the intruder, whoever he was, destroyed what lay beneath the temple, years of Sith planning would be undone. His mind raced through possibilities, but outwardly he remained still. Then Mace Windu's gaze suddenly returned to him, sharper than before. Senator Palpatine, Windu said carefully, watching for any reaction. Is something troubling you? Palpatine quickly pushed aside his inner turmoil, replacing it with his usual diplomatic serenity. He let out a small, controlled chuckle and shook his head. No, not at all, Master Windu, he said with his usual pleasant tone. Not at all. Palpatine stepped into his shuttle, the doors hissing shut behind him. The moment he settled into his seat, his composed expression darkened slightly. His voice, usually smooth and controlled, carried an edge of irritation as he spoke. Please tell me you watched the hole at the entrance of the Jedi Temple, the one that was sealed. From behind the pilot's seat, Darth Maul remained still for a moment before responding. I haven't slept, Master, Maul said, his voice low and disciplined. The explosion destroyed part of the stairs, but then it suddenly sealed itself completely. Palpatine's fingers lightly drummed against the armrest of his seat. His gaze turned toward the dark expanse of Coruscant's skyline beyond the viewport. No one entered, he asked, his voice quieter now, more thoughtful, and no one left. Maul answered without hesitation. Yes, Master, I am certain. No one came to that hole. Palpatine's fingers stopped drumming. A strange, uncomfortable feeling settled in his mind, a feeling he had not experienced in decades. For all his skill in manipulation, deception, and foresight, something about this intruder had completely bypassed his expectations. He exhaled slowly, his voice dropping to a mutter. Why do I feel as if my deception has lost to this unknown figure? Maul's yellow eyes flickered slightly, confused. Master, he asked, what did you just say? Palpatine's expression immediately shifted back to his usual calm facade. Drive me home, my apprentice. His tone returned to its normal, calculating smoothness. I am tired of being questioned by the Jedi. Maul nodded without another word and steered the shuttle toward the depths of Coruscant. At a hidden asteroid base near the Katail system, a large freighter touched down on the worn metal platform, its engines hissing as it powered down. The heavy doors groaned open, revealing a scene of lawless chaos. The settlement within the asteroid was a den of outcasts, criminals, and those who had long abandoned the Republic's laws. Ragged banners hung from rusted walls, and makeshift structures lined the base, each one filled with traders, bounty hunters, and mercenaries seeking fortune beyond the reach of Coruscant's order. A man stood at the entrance, arms crossed as he greeted the new arrivals. His voice carried a rough amusement. Welcome to a place under stark commercial combine. His grin was as sharp as the blasters holstered at his sides. Here we take in the lawless, the desperate, and the ones who don't ask questions. Among the newcomers, one figure stood apart. Draped in a heavy cloak, his face was mostly obscured save for a single portion, revealing only his piercing blue eyes. He blended in perfectly among the drifters and smugglers. It was Jin-Woo. As he walked through the lawless outpost, he opened his status window. Notification. Second quest assigned. Quest title, The Second Anchor. Description, find a very durable Sith artifact, Jedi artifact, or any relic of immense power to further anchor yourself within the galaxy. Choices of artifacts, Yavin. 4. Temple Darkside Nexus. Muir Talisman, artifact of the ancient Sith Lord Karn's Muir. Ossus Jedi Holocron Vault, a hidden Jedi archive containing knowledge lost to time. Reward, unknown, depends on the difficulty level within. The Star Wars galaxy. The harder the artifact, the greater the reward. Defeat condition, none. Hidden. Objectives, unknown. Hidden rewards, unknown. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed slightly. This wasn't just about gaining power. The more he anchored himself to the galaxy, the less resistance he would feel from its natural laws. No more restrictions. No more limitations. He exhaled quietly, his thoughts running through his options. Never thought I'd be using the dark side of the Force to guide my way to hell. The dark side wasn't just a tool, it was a force that demanded suffering from those who wielded it. To an ordinary Force user, it was a path that devoured both mind and body, twisting them into something less than human. But Jin-Woo was not ordinary. He is the Shadow King, darkness itself, the Lord of the Dead. In his mind, he measured his options. The Jedi Holocron Vault. Too fragile. It's not powerful enough to serve as an anchor. The Yavin 4 Temple. It's inhabited by Exarchun. If I use my true Shadow Monarch form instead of just my Ashborn form, I might get kicked out of this galaxy entirely. That left only one real option. The zombie talisman maker, the Muir Talisman. A Sith artifact that could corrupt and transform living beings into mindless rat ghouls, bending them to the will of its wielder. A relic created by Carnes' Muir, a Sith Lord who had long sought to achieve his own form of immortality. Jin-Woo lowered his gaze and looked around the black market surrounding him. This place wasn't just a den of criminal, if I was of operational illegal hub, bustling with trade far beyond the Republic's reach. Everywhere he looked, there were vendors and dealers selling high-end blasters and disruptor rifles, weapons too, dangerous for normal civilians. Sith and Jedi relics, many of them fake, but some with genuine power hidden among the scams. Personal starships and stolen Republic military vessels, stripped of identification codes, droid parts and cybernetics, including modifications meant for bounty hunters and mercenaries. Black market force artifacts, their origins questionable at best. Jin-Woo's blue eyes swept across the market, memorizing every detail. If there was anywhere in the galaxy where he could find leads on the Muir Talisman, it was here. He continued walking through the black market stalls, his gaze flickering between various artifacts. Some vendors hawked supposedly ancient Jedi relics, while others displayed Sith trinkets, their dark energy weak and barely noticeable. Annoyed by the constant intrusive whispers from the dark side, Jin-Woo finally decided to shut it off. This so-called dark side guidance keeps suggesting the dumbest ideas. With a single thought, he silenced the lingering suggestions, removing the distraction entirely. His attention then turned to something far more interesting. A Defender-class light corvette. An old Republic ship, well-armed and sturdy, a relic of the past. From the outside, it looked perfectly fine, the hull clean, the structure intact. Yet Jin-Woo felt something wrong about it. A presence. A taint. It wasn't overtly corrupted like a Sith warship, but there was something off. Jin-Woo had seen this kind of wrongness before. Where there's a plague, there's always a clue. If he was lucky, this could be a jackpot. He might have just found the Muir Talisman. As he examined the ship, a grizzled man standing near it took notice. With a crooked grin, the seller leaned against a crate, rubbing his hands together. "Eh? I own this ship?" the man said, his tone casual. "You're lucky, pal. This one's sent for cheap, only 100. Before he could finish, Jin-Woo cut him off. "Tell me the real reason this ship is being ignored," he said flatly. His voice was calm, yet carried an undeniable weight. Even by newcomers, the man fell silent. His expression remained neutral, but Jin-Woo could sense it. The subtle shift in his breathing, the faint hesitation in his stance. He was hiding something. Jin-Woo didn't wait. With a flick of his fingers, an invisible grip tightened around the man's throat. The seller choked, his hands instinctively reaching for his neck as he struggled against the pressure. Jin-Woo's blue eyes glowed coldly. "Blink," Jin-Woo said, his tone unchanging. "If what I say is correct." The man nodded rapidly, his eyes wide with fear. Jin-Woo's grip loosened just enough to let him breathe. "There's some kind of plague inside this ship, isn't there?" The man blinked once. Jin-Woo's expression didn't change. "And there's some kind of ancient mutant inside it, right?" He exhaled slightly, then added, "Though I prefer to call them overrated zombies." The man blinked again. Jin-Woo stared at him for a moment before asking the last question. "One more thing. Is there a stasis capsule inside this ship?" The man froze for half a second before blinking rapidly this time, nodding a few times along with it. Jin-Woo finally released his grip, letting the man drop to his knees, gasping for air. Without a word, Jin-Woo pulled out 110,000 credits and tossed them onto the crate beside him. "Buy yourself some clothes," Jin-Woo said, his tone indifferent, "and get out of here." The man coughed a few times, rubbing his throat before looking up at Jin-Woo with an expression of pure disbelief. "Are you trying to suicide?" He wheezed, his voice hoarse. "Even if you're a Jedi, you have no idea what's inside that ship." Jin-Woo had already opened the hatch to the ship, stepping inside without hesitation. As the door sealed shut behind him, he turned his head slightly and spoke his parting words. "Oh, I'm aware," he said, his voice calm, almost amused. "I'm very aware." His blue eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. "That's why what's so-called the dark side of the Force will finally know fear." The moment he stepped further into the ship, his suspicions were confirmed. A low, guttural growl echoed through the metal halls. Then they appeared. 5 Rakuls. Twisted, feral creatures, once living beings, now cursed monstrosities bound by the Muir talisman's infection. Their deformed faces snarled, their clawed hands twitching as they charged at him. Jin-Woo didn't even flinch. Before the creatures could reach him, Beru emerged from Jin-Woo's shadow. The towering insectoid warrior moved in an instant. Limbs blurred, claws flashed, flesh tore. In less than a second, all 5 Rakuls were shredded apart. Their dismembered bodies hit the floor with wet thuds. Blackened blood staining the corroded metal. Beru loomed over the remains, his mandibles clicking as he growled. "You dare disrespect my liege?" His voice was deep, filled with righteous fury. "Y'all need some in to wind." Jin-Woo tapped Beru's shoulder, cutting him off. "All right, Beru," he said casually. "That's enough." He glanced around at the bloodied, twitching remains. "They're gone now. No one remains." Beru huffed, retracting his claws, though his mandibles still twitched in irritation. Jin-Woo simply stepped over the corpses and moved deeper into the ship. As he walked through the narrow corridors, his blue eyes scanned every room carefully. Surprisingly, the ship was clean. Aside from the rotting Rakghoul corpses, there was no sign of battle damage. No signs of a previous struggle. The halls were still intact. The consoles were functional, and the atmosphere was stable. It was almost too clean. Beru, still standing by his side, clicked his mandibles in irritation as he glanced at the fallen bodies. "My liege, allow me to tear this." Jin-Woo raised a hand, cutting him off. "I still need the ship to travel like a normal person in this galaxy," he said. His voice was calm, but there was a certain amusement in his tone. "There's a beauty in laying low." Beru hesitated for a moment, then nodded reluctantly, retracting his claws. At that moment, Egress stepped forward, emerging from the shadows as well. His black armor gleamed dimly in the ship's emergency lighting as he surveyed the area. "My liege," Egress said, his tone unwavering. "Is something missing?" Jin-Woo stopped walking. He looked around once more, his gaze narrowing. Something wasn't right. His eyes swept the walls, the floor, the corridors. Everything was exactly as he expected, except for one thing. Where is the stasis pod? That didn't make sense. If this ship was transporting something as valuable as a stasis pod, something that had been ignored, feared, and left untouched, then it wouldn't be out in the open, which means it's hidden. Jin-Woo closed his eyes, reaching out not with the Force, but with something far deeper. His shadow stretched, like ink bleeding into the cracks of reality. His presence seeped into every corner of the ship. Shadows slithered into vents pooled beneath panels, spread across the walls, hunting. Then he felt it. A gap in reality. A space that shouldn't exist, a void beneath the floor. Jin-Woo's blue eyes snapped open. "So that's where they hid you." He stepped forward and knelt, pressing a hand against the metal plating. From the outside, the floor looked perfectly normal. No seams, no hatches, nothing out of place. But that was a lie. This place was wrapped in something powerful. Jin-Woo could feel it now, a force-based illusion. It wasn't simply hidden. It was erased. To ordinary eyes, this part of the floor didn't exist. To the Jedi, to the Sith, to scavengers and explorers alike, it was invisible. "But I'm neither Jedi nor Sith," Jin-Woo pushed his shadow deeper into the illusion. The darkness curled against it, probed at it until it found a weakness. The moment he did, he tore it open. A ripple passed through the air, like shattered glass reforming in reverse. The illusion peeled away, revealing what had been hidden beneath the ship's metal floor. A sealed compartment, and inside a black cylindrical device. It was ancient, the metal plating engraved with forgotten Sith runes. A device built not just for containment, but for suppression. Drapause oubliette. Jin-Woo's gaze flickered. He had read of such artifacts before stasis prisons designed by the ancient Sith, used to imprison dangerous individuals in a near-death slumber for eternity. And inside this one, there was a presence, something where someone was still alive. Retracting his shadows, he recalled his army back into the void beneath him. There was no need for them yet. With a single press of the button, the oubliette hissed to life. Ancient mechanisms groaned as the prison pod rose from its hidden chamber, its engraved plating flickering with faint red warnings. Then, with a sharp metallic screech, the casket split open. Cold air hissed out, and from within a figure stirred. A woman, her eyes snapped open wide with confusion and panic. She inhaled sharply, her body tense, staring at him but seeing someone else. "Zany." Her voice echoed in the silent ship, desperate and raw, but there was no answer. Her gaze darted around in confusion, her breaths uneven, until they'd finally settled on Jin-Woo, a man she did not recognize. Jin-Woo exhaled lightly. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, he spoke with genuine amusement. "Hey, you're finally awake." The woman blinked, still dazed from centuries of slumber. "You got betrayed by the Jedi, right?" He continued, tilting his head slightly, watching her reaction closely. "Not meeting Vader." Before she could process the words, a voice rumbled from the shadows beneath him. "My liege," Beru said, his tone completely serious. "Can I play Skyrim?" Jin-Woo ignored Beru, his gaze locked onto the woman before him. He already knew her identity, Celeste Morn, the holder of the Muir talisman. She took a shaky breath, her body still adjusting to the sudden awakening. "How long have I slept?" Jin-Woo didn't hesitate. "The year is 13,956 GRS Galactic Republic Standard. The Jedi Temple still stands. The politicians are still fat." Celeste's eyes widened slightly, her fingers gripping the edge of the oubliette as reality sank in. Thousands of years had passed. Around her neck, the Muir talisman pulsed faintly, its surface shifting like a living thing. The spirit of Carnes' Muir, trapped within the ancient artifact, had already begun to stir. Though silent, it could feel the power radiating from the man standing before Celeste. This was not a Jedi, this was not a Sith, this was something far worse. For the first time in millennia, Carnes' Muir hesitated. The talisman pulsed again. The Sith Lords, instincts screaming for him to stay, silent to wait for the right moment to transfer hosts. Jin-Woo's eyes flickered toward the artifact. "That talisman of yours," he said, his tone unreadable. "Can you take it off on your own?" Celeste Morn ignored the question, her weary yet sharp gaze locking onto him. "Are you a Sith?" Jin-Woo smirked faintly. "I had a Sith master once, a businessman." Before she could process the strange answer, Celeste Morn ignited her lightsaber, a yellow blade humming to life, its golden glow cutting through the dim interior of the ship. Without hesitation, Jin-Woo followed suit, activating Vakiva's lightsaber. A black blade roared to life, its dark energy crackling unnaturally against the air. Their weapons clashed. The ship's walls trembled as Celeste lunged forward, her strikes fast and precise, but Jin-Woo barely moved, deflecting each blow with effortless precision. She gritted her teeth, pushing forward with a powerful arc, but Jin-Woo sidestepped, his movements fluid and unreadable. "What kind of monster are you?" She spat, her voice tight with frustration. "You're darker than any Sith I've ever known." Jin-Woo didn't answer. Instead, he moved. Form 1, Shicho, a sweep in motion that forced her back. Form 3, Seresu, a perfect defense parrying every attempt she made to break through. Form 5, Gemso, a counterattack using her own momentum against her. She barely had time to react before Jin-Woo shifted again, his blade moving with unreal speed and precision. A flick of his wrist, her saber spun out of her grip, clattering onto the floor. The fight was over before it even began. Jin-Woo deactivated his lightsaber, taking a step forward as she stumbled back, breathing heavily. "Let me rephrase that question," he said, his voice cold yet calm. "Do you want to be free or not, Celeste Morn?" Celeste Morn's breath hitched. How do you know my name? Before Jin-Woo could answer, the Muir talisman suddenly detached from her neck. The artifact twitched, unnaturally, before it moved, scuttling across the floor like a spider. Jin-Woo's eyes followed its erratic movements, his instincts sharpening. It wasn't trying to latch onto him. It knew it couldn't. Instead, the talisman shifted its strategy. A pulse of dark energy erupted from it, the air distorting as an unseen force expanded outward. The surroundings melted away, shifting into an unfamiliar landscape. They had been transported. The real world remained untouched. To anyone outside, Jin-Woo and Celeste still stood in the ship and moving, but within their minds, within a space of accelerated thought and illusionary reality, they now stood in Carnes' Moore's domain. Jin-Woo exhaled, scanning his surroundings. They were inside a colossal dome of mist, the sky above swirling with black and red energy. The very air crackled with Sith power, suffocating in absolute. Towering stone ruins surrounded them, twisted structures bearing ancient Sith inscriptions, as if they stood in a broken temple lost to time. And at the center, seated upon a throne of dark obsidian, was Carnes' Muir himself. In his own mental domain he stood in full form, a Sith Lord adorned in dark armor, his hollowed eyes burning with ancient malice. The talisman itself now floated beside him, like a chained beast waiting to be unleashed. Carnes' Muir smiled, rising from his throne. "You are in my world now," he said, his voice reverberating through the air like 1,000 whispering voices. "And here, I am Abso." Before he could finish, the air around him collapsed. A crushing force unlike anything this domain had ever witnessed pulled at him, dragging his entire form downward. The throne beneath him shattered instantly, reduced to dust as an invisible gravitational force yanked him forward. Jin-Woo stood motionless. His ruler's authority had activated without fanfare-ish grand gestures. No unnecessary movements, just a simple command. And Carnes' Muir was ripped from his own throne, his body slamming face first into the ground, mere inches from Jin-Woo's boots. The impact sent cracks spiderwebbing across the black stone beneath them. The once mighty Sith Lord let out a ragged breath, his crimson armor trembling from the sheer weight pressing him down. Jin-Woo tilted his head slightly, staring down at the ancient Sith like a mere insect. His blue eyes gleamed coldly. "You looking for falling credits?" he asked, his voice calm too calm. Chapter 4. Stark. Hyperspace War 2. Carnes' Moore's breathing turned heavy. Impossible, even in his own domain, where his power was absolute, where he had manipulated minds, twisted souls, and devoured Force users for millennia. He was the one being crushed. How? He knew this man was powerful the moment he appeared, but this was beyond any Sith or Jedi he had ever encountered. Celeste Morn stood frozen, staring at the sight before her, the legendary Carnes' Muir, one of the most feared Sith Lords in history, the man whose name was whispered in dread, the very being that had bound her for thousands of years, on his knees, before a man she didn't even know. And Jin-Woo hadn't even moved. Carnes' Muir gritted his teeth, rage flickering across his sunken face. Unacceptable. He would not allow this humiliation to stand. His body trembled, not from fear, but from sheer fury as he gathered his power, forcing himself to rise. "You may have power, but this is my domain." Moore's voice cracked like thunder, his outstretched hand trembling as the ground beneath them split apart. From the abyss, countless Rakghouls crawled out, their twisted, grotesque bodies moving with unnatural speed. Thousands of them screeching, howling, their glowing yellow eyes filled with hunger. A storm of monsters, endless in number. Jin-Woo watched without concern. He let Muir bask in the delusion of control. Let him speak his empty words. Let him summon his horde. "You are trapped here," Muir declared, his voice filled with arrogance. "No matter how strong you are in my mind, my world. You will never leave." Jin-Woo let out a breath, a slow, deliberate exhale. His blue eyes burned coldly as he tilted his head ever so slightly. No, pathetic, cheap necromancer. His tone was almost disappointed. "You're locked in here with me." Carnes's Muir froze. Jin-Woo took a single step forward, and the sky darkened. A wave of suffocating pressure rolled across the battlefield, swallowing the very light from the world itself. The air trembled as an infinite void stretched across the horizon. From the endless darkness, countless eyes opened. Not two, not hundreds, millions. A horrifying presence loomed over the battlefield, so vast that even Moore's mental domain, his own world, seemed insignificant before it. And then they emerged. Shadow soldiers. An unstoppable army clad in blackened armor, their eyes glowing with eerie blue light. A force that made Moore's Raguls look like mere insects. The shadows knelt before Jin-Woo, their collective voices ringing out in absolute unity. "My liege, what is your command?" Before Jin-Woo could say anything, Baru, as always, spoke up first. "Our liege wants us to clear the path for his glory." The moment those words left Baru's mandibles, the Shadow Army reacted instantly. For the monarch, a deafening roar erupted across the battlefield as the shadows surged forward. An unstoppable tide of destruction. The Raguls never stood a chance. Before they could even react, they were ripped apart. The shadows descended upon them like executioners, swords cleaving through flesh, claws piercing through bone. The battlefield became a massacre, an overwhelming genocide where nothing of Carnes's Moore's creations could survive. The Sith Lord watched in horror. His mental domain, his reality, was being torn apart by an army that should not exist. Celeste Morn remained silent. She had seen many wars, fought many battles, but this was not a battle. This was slaughter. Jin-Woo, unbothered, turned his gaze toward Bellion and Egress. The two strongest shadows stood at his side, watching the battlefield unfold. Slowly, both of them raised their hands, a silent gesture of denial. "We had nothing to do with this," Jin-Woo sighed. He didn't even have to look at Baru to know exactly whose fault this was. Meanwhile, Carnes's Muir remained speechless. He was one of the most powerful Sith Lords in history, a master of Sith magic, a commander of plagues, a tyrant feared by Jedi and Sith alike. And yet he stood paralyzed, because the man before him, the one who had barely lifted a finger, was beyond any nightmare he could have ever imagined. Jin-Woo exhaled, his blue eyes locked onto the trembling Sith Lord. Carnes's Muir, the most powerful Sith. That's what they say. His tone was unreadable, almost indifferent. "However, to me, you're just a commander of overrated zombies who know how to use blasters." Moore's hollowed eyes twitched with anger. I have knowledge." His voice cracked, trying to regain control. "A map? Secrets of the galaxy that even the Sith do not know. Even you do not." Jin-Woo's gaze immediately froze him. "The only thing you have now," Jin-Woo said, his voice carrying a weight that felt inhuman, "is that overrated amulet." Then he unleashed it. Jin-Woo's true power. Not as the Shadow Monarch, not as the heir of Ashbourne, but as the one who had once battled gods themselves. So Shiant Al-Shidar. The air collapsed. A crushing, suffocating force erupted from Jin-Woo's body, an unseen pressure that tore through the very foundation of the Sith Lord's mental domain. The sky shattered, the ground cracked apart, split into endless fissures as an unstoppable wave of killing intent blanketed the entire reality. The ability was simple. The stronger his killing intent, the stronger he became. And right now, Gunwa's killing intent was at its peak. The sheer density of his presence made everyone kneel. Even his own shadows, despite their loyalty, their unwavering faith, collapsed beneath the pressure. Baru's mandibles clattered violently as his form trembled, trying desperately to remain upright. Bellion gritted his teeth, his sword arm shaking, while Egress found himself forced onto one knee. Jin-Woo didn't even glance at them. His gaze remained fixed on Carnes's Muir. The Sith Lord's eyes widened in terror. He had seen death countless times, inflicted it upon thousands, but now he was staring at something beyond death. He tried to speak, to bargain, to do anything, but Jin-Woo had already decided his fate. With a single, fluid motion, he slashed. The black blade of Vectivus. Light saber cut through Carnes's Muir like an executioner's judgment. There was no resistance, no final scream, only absolute silence. The Sith Lord crumbled, his very essence collapsing in on itself. For the first time in millennia, Carnes's Muir was dead. Jin-Woo exhaled softly. Then, without hesitation, he spoke one word. Arise. Darkness rippled outward. The already shattered reality of Moore's domain twisted and groaned, as if resisting the sheer, unnatural force of Jin-Woo's command. And then from the void, Carnes's Muir rose again, not as a Sith Lord, not as a specter clinging to cursed relics, but as a shadow soldier. Jin-Woo's blue eyes flickered as he observed the result. A notification appeared in his vision. Shadow extraction, success, Carnes's Muir. Elite Knight. Jin-Woo snorted. Truly an overrated Sith. Without another word, he dismissed him. Carnes's Muir's newly formed shadow sank into the abyss, retreating into Jin-Woo's domain where all his soldiers awaited their next summons. Celeste Morn, who had been kneeling, stood completely still. She hadn't even seen what happened. One moment, Carnes's Muir had been there alive. The next, he was gone. Her body was tense, her breathing shallow. She had spent centuries resisting the corruption of Moore's talisman, believing herself to be strong, to be unbreakable. Yet now she realized she had never even known what true power was. The man standing before her, this monarch, was beyond anything she could comprehend. And now her life depended on his decision. Before she could even process what was happening, Celeste Morn sank into the darkness. Bellion stepped forward, his towering form kneeling slightly. My liege, I have placed the woman's mind into a forced sleep. Jin-Woo nodded. This is still Carnes's Moore's domain. Impressive, but I need to be 2 steps ahead of the system. The thought alone made him smirk. If the system was going to force objectives on him, then he would bend it to his will. His preparations began immediately, using the same ability as Kandiaru, the architect from his previous world, the one who manipulated an entire world's flow. Jin-Woo restructured reality. The Muir talisman, the real one, was still here, but not for long. At that moment, a perfect replica materialized, indistinguishable from the original. A creation born from pure shadow, identical in every way. At the exact moment this reality collapsed and the acceleration of thought ended, the real Muir talisman would vanish, launched to an unknown destination directly into the core of the dark side of the Force itself, a place where even the Sith feared to tread. Jin-Woo let out a satisfied breath. Thought acceleration is really flexible. His mind was already racing through possibilities. The hidden quest objectives were unknown, meaning there was room for exploitation. If he played this right, he wouldn't just complete the quest. He would milk it for every possible reward. Meanwhile, in the Stark space station, inside the Defender-class light corvette, Jin-Woo activated his next move. The real Muir talisman was implanted with a shadow. Shadow promotion, success. Carnes's Muir, General. The former Sith Lord was reborn once again. Jin-Woo glanced down at the artifact, his voice calm. Now that I've promoted you, do your thing. The real Muir talisman was already gone, and in its place the fake one now rested, a flawless copy, indistinguishable to anyone. As Jin-Woo spoke, the true artifact was being launched, far beyond reach to unknown location deep within the core of the dark side itself. At that exact moment, Celeste Morn's body twitched. Her breathing was sharp and erratic as she returned to consciousness, coughing as she struggled to sit up. Her eyes fluttered open, then widened. The Muir talisman lay shattered beneath Jin-Woo's boot, crushed into worthless fragments. She stared, frozen, unable to believe it. Centuries of torment, endless whispers, the slow, maddening decay of her mind. The weight that had clung to her soul for so long had vanished, leaving only silence. She let out a shaky breath. Relief, that was what she felt. But even as the tension left her shoulders, something colder settled in its place. She looked at Jin-Woo, the man responsible for her freedom, and knew instantly he was not her ally. No Jedi, no Sith, something worse. His presence didn't feel like a Sith's corruption, born from rage and ambition. He simply was the darkness itself. Her fingers twitched toward where her lightsaber should be, only to find it gone. She clenched her jaw. He had taken it without effort, as if disarming her had been nothing more than an afterthought. She exhaled, forcing herself to meet his gaze. That thing tormented me for centuries. You don't know what it's like to have your mind constantly poised by whispers. Jin-Woo said nothing. Celeste swallowed, her grip tightening. But you. Her voice was quieter now, more cautious. You're more dangerous than any Sith I've ever encountered. She was free from one monster, and now she was at the mercy of another. Jin-Woo glanced at his status window. Notification. Quest completed. Quest title. The second anchor description. Find a very durable Sith artifact, Jedi artifact, or any relic of immense power to further anchor yourself within the galaxy. Choices of artifacts. Yavin 4, Temple Darkside Nexus. Muir Talisman, artifact of the ancient Sith Lord Karn's Muir completed. Ossus Jedi Holocron Vault, a hidden Jedi archive containing knowledge lost to time. Reward. Hardest difficulty awarded. Zeta Halo Installation 07. Location Teleportation Voucher. All choices reward. Second Anchor Era. Anchor already. Implanted by the player via Muir Talisman. All choices reward. Renewed. Gotcha Vucha. By 5 Jin-Woo. Smirked. Zeta Halo. Now that's an interesting prize. A Forerunner installation home to some of the most advanced AI constructs in history. If luck wasn't on his side, he might just end up with Despondent Pyre, a mere caretaker AI. But if he hit the jackpot, Offensive Bias, a Forerunner AI designed for war, built to counteract even the most overwhelming threats. Jin-Woo saw the look in Celeste's eyes. Truly believed he had destroyed the damned talisman. Then another notification appeared before him. Notification. Hidden quest completed. Hidden objectives. Muir Talisman choice. Celeste Morn believes you destroyed the Muir Talisman, while in truth you used it to create the second anchor. Hidden rewards. Minus 500,000. EXP. Revan's armor and mask. Before he could even process that, another notification flashed. Notification. Level up. Jin-Woo opened his status window. Status window name. Sung Jin-Woo. 2/4 second anchor. The Dark Side anchor. Age unknown level 16 low level Jedi Knight / low level Sith warrior. EXP. Lin Tui Liu Shuan. Occupation. Unknown midichlorian. Count 50,000 second anchor. Realized. Money 5 million credits updated from Sith Shrine loot. Equipment Vectivus lightsaber. Inventory. Incomplete Starforge X1. Holocrons of Sith Shrine. Still being analyzed. Holocron. Ritual of Immortality Blood Kyber. Crystals by 30 Kyber Crystal Shard. Bound to Jin-Woo. Sith Warblade. Sith Alchemy. Relics. Other Sith Shrine relics still being analyzed. 5 Gotcha Vouchers. Zeta Halo. Teleportation Voucher. Revan's armor and mask. Force abilities. Force Ghost. Force Phantom. Force Jump. Force Pull. Push. Midichlorian Manipulation locked. Midichlorian count not sufficient. Force Lightning. Force Throw. Force. Telekinesis. Mind Control. Manipulation. Force Choke. Force Drain. Metodaru Nagasados's Force. Ability. Projective Telepathy. Battle. Meditation Transfer Essence Skills. And abilities. Master Swordsmanship. Expert Marksmanship. Basic Telekinetic. Lightsaber Combat. Sith Alchemy. Jin-Woo let out a quiet chuckle as he closed the status window.